I would really like nothing more than to see the old generation of comic book writers influence the new generation and kind of take some of these new writers by the hand and show them the ropes of storytelling. Obviously, everybody's storytelling method is going to be slightly different and everybody's going to have a slightly different approach. But what makes a good story really doesn't change. You might structure your story a little different than somebody else might structure theirs, but the premise of what makes a good story, the meat and potatoes of that is not going to change. Chris Claremont is returning to draw a Wolverine and Kitty Pryde series. Now, I didn't know anything about this. I guess it was announced in January. I completely missed it. And I'm guessing maybe some of you missed it as well. So I'm going to cover that. I believe, I'm not going to make any promises, but I believe tomorrow I'm going to start a deep dive into Alpha Core. I'm going over Alpha Core #1, doing a deep dive, sharing my thoughts, going over the book, letting you know what I think. Anyway, this story caught my attention from CBR.com, and it is X-Men legend Chris Claremont returns to pivotal moment in Wolverine's history for anticipated book. Now, this goes back to something that I keep saying, and some of my friends and some comic book geeks, they disagree with me on this, but I think there is an effort to course correct. Here's what we have to remember, right? Like people make mistakes, businesses make mistakes. Some of this stuff is done on purpose because they thought the winds were shifting in a certain direction. These businesses are beginning to lose money, and I believe they are making an attempt to course correct. And I believe we have two options here. We can accept the olive branch with caution, or we can throw caution to the wind and say, I'm not accepting anything. Now, if we do that, we have to understand that what comes after, we all have to be cool with. Because what's going to happen next is a lot of these companies are going to say, okay, it doesn't matter what we do, the fans are never going to receive us back. So we're just going to do whatever we want. Screw the fans. We don't care. And I would rather we accept the olive branch with caution, but there's exciting things ahead. Chris Claremont is not only a capable comic book writer, one of the best and most legendary. His stories are absolutely epic. Following the January announcement that acclaimed Uncanny X-Men writer Chris Claremont will return for the hotly anticipated 5-issue limited series Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, Marvel Comics has unveiled a brand new preview of its first issue. The title, which takes the titular fan favorite mutants back to a pivotal time in their history, will hit comic book bookshelves on April 30th. And let me say, Marvel, my channel is small. I know you're not listening, but wouldn't this be a good time for them to release that John Byrne X-Men Elsewhere? Man, this would be a good time to do that. Marvel's preview opens with Wolverine and Kitty Pryde in combat training, with the latter storming off after an apparent disagreement. The teaser also shows Wolverine in action as he faces off with an assailant. Then Kitty Pryde phases through a truck to rescue a young boy. Set between the events of Kitty Pryde and Wolverine #6 and Uncanny X-Men #192, series writer Chris Claremont is collaborating with artist Damian Couceiro. I'm not really familiar with his art. I'll have to look him up and check him out. X-Men Unlimited and Groot, which I'm definitely not reading X-Men Unlimited, to reveal the untold adventures of Wolverine and Shadowcat's time in Japan after the young mutants almost lost her soul to Ogun. Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, #1 of 5, written by Chris Claremont, art Damian Couceiro, cover by Alan Davis. The all-new adventures will tell a full story of Kitty Pryde and Wolverine's journey in Japan before returning to the X-Men and the heartbreak trials and tribulations that helped shape the characters. Marvel's Wolverine and Kitty Pryde description reads, when Kitty Pryde nearly lost her soul to Ogun during her journey to Japan, Logan was there to keep the youngest X-Men on the path to good. But as a mysterious force threatens their lives while staying with Mariko Yoshida, it's going to take all of their combined mutant ninja and fighting skills to protect those they love. Chris Claremont discussed the upcoming series. Chris Claremont, excited about Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, and praised series artist Couceiro, is really it's really great returning to this arc, especially since it's being presented by a wonderful artist, Damian Couceiro. He said, it's the story of what happens between the end of the original Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries and Logan and Pryde's return home to rejoin the X-Men. 5 issues, more than a single story, complete with surprises galore. This could be good. I wonder why they don't just take a writer like Chris Claremont while he is still alive and just return him to writing the X-Men. Like, whatever they have in a work, just toss that to the side, take Chris Claremont, eliminate all concurrent running X-Men titles after this, and say, all right, Chris, whatever you have, we're going with it. Now, it's a toss-up, right? They could do that, or they could go with John Byrne, or maybe go with John Byrne art and Chris Claremont writing while they're still alive. That would be amazing. That would be actually very amazing. I wish they would do something like that. Marvel editor Mark Basso added, obviously, the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries is so iconic. Taking Kitty from the junior X-Man to the fully fledged hero we see when she returns to New York. But there was a clear gap between the end of this Ogun situation and when Wolverine and Kitty arrive in New York in Uncanny X-Men number 192. And we were thrilled Chris was ready to show what happened in the intervening window. Why was Kitty in such a different headspace when they got back? And hey, where'd Kitty's father get to? Now you'll get to see. The first issue of Chris Claremont's Wolverine and Kitty Pryde will arrive in comic book shops on April 30th, 2025. And that's an exciting event. I think, as I said, a lot of these veteran writers, in my humble opinion, the company should request that they return and write some stories. Like, get them to write as much as possible and get them to train the new generation of writers. As I said earlier, this is something exciting, and this might show what a good X-Men story can actually do for the X-Men book. X-Men should be one of Marvel's highest selling books. There should be no reason why X-Men books are not flying off the shelves and why people are not excited about X-Men stories. Now, obviously, lately, people have had their issues. I won't get into that. But this right here, my friends, is some exciting news, if you ask me.